Hello, welcome everyone. So great to see so many people here who I know are joining from probably across the world. So it's wonderful to see all of you here. We're going to go ahead and get started. I want to welcome all of you and thank you for coming. I'm Dr. Heather Aiken. I'm a faculty member in the Department of Agricultural Leadership, Education, and Communication, and at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, and I'm Fakadu's doctoral advisor, and we have other members of his committee on here as well. So welcome to them also. So just want to share the format for today. I have invited him to present for about 40 minutes along those lines to present his research that he's conducted for his PhD. And then we will open it up for any participants to ask any questions. Because we're using a webinar format here, you can share any questions you have in the Q&A. In the Q&A function, which should be on your screen. I see questions that have been coming in here and there, so I will just moderate those. But I will turn it over here to Fakado in a moment. But again, if you have questions after his presentation, you can put those in the Q&A for him to address at the end of the presentation. So with that, I will turn it over to Fakadu. I'm very excited. I've known Fakadu since he arrived at UNL, and so it's very exciting that we're at this point for him to share his research with you. So Fakadu, I will turn it over to you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Very good, thank you. Can you see my screen?
I can, and I hope other participants can. If you cannot, you can go ahead and say, I can't see your screen. Let's see it. You might be able to use the chat. But I can see it. I could see it. Now I cannot. Now I can.
You can't see?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for coming. So my presentation is entitled Public Perceptions of Leadership Effectiveness in Ethiopia over the last decade. So I will start by introduction and the leadership theory, methodology, key findings, discussion, conclusion, and recommendations. So before we go to the details, first, for those of you who are not from Ethiopia, as you know, Ethiopia is the second biggest country in Africa. It's also one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And it's also a birthplace of coffee. All of you, whenever you drink coffee, please remember Ethiopia. And Ethiopia also the origin of mankind. You might have heard about Lucy. And Ethiopia is never colonized. So we have no one to blame, or all the credit to the Ethiopian people. All the blames also all to our own people. So yeah, and Ethiopia also have one of the biggest airline in the world. It's the best in Africa. And recently, the best story, we completed the biggest hydroelectric dam in Africa. And these are some of the very beautiful, shiny parts of Ethiopia. And what's the problem statement? Why I wanted to study this topic? During the past 10 years, Ethiopia have been going through a lot of development challenges and also opportunities and good stories.
Recording in progress.
Like drought, locust infestation, flooding, protests that led to the change of government, and also currently conflict is ongoing during the past 3-4 years, and the COVID pandemic, of course, as you know. Also, internet is expanding a lot. Social media is growing. Don't know if this is good or bad. We are not very sure to confidently say social media is helping us. Cannot say it's bad because we are using on social media. We are learning a lot and even meeting on Zoom, you know. So the major gap we observed during this 10 years is that how people experience hardship and also effectiveness of government in the eyes of the public is not adequately studied. So I'm fortunate enough to had the chance to do research in this topic. This is the topic I care about the most. It's not only because this is, helping my PhD. As compared to where I come from, this is a village. Like this picture is very close to my home, where I was born and raised. This is where I spent my childhood time. This is a very beautiful place, as you see it. Also living there, you could see it. We have some of the most innocent, caring, and sharing people. But the challenge, the environment, especially water availability, and environmental degradation, population growth, and lack of access to basic infrastructure is really challenging the public. For example, very recently in 2025, November 2025, there is a very big drought ongoing in this area. Farmers are asking for support. Unfortunately, we don't see it getting a lot of attention. The media is not reporting this thing. This is a very visible context of why I'm interested in discussing hardships, how are people experiencing daily challenges, and what about also effectiveness of the leaders? What are the leaders doing in helping people, have a better life? So this is not only about the place where I come from. If you go to different parts of Ethiopia, especially rural areas, water access is one of the biggest challenges people are struggling with. My own village where I come from, people are still getting the same water which we used to get. You need to travel at least 3 or 4 kilometers far from home to get water like that you drink at home, So, yes, Ethiopia is growing in so many ways, but still there are a lot of people who are left behind. I come from this community and I should be their voice. I wanted to learn more and see how different researchers reported and also what the latest information available can inform us. But the question is, until now, people don't have most of the basic necessities they need for their life. For example, the drought I just told you about. But who is responsible to lead positive change in these areas? What is my role? What is the role of all of us in this, modern world, those of us who had the chance to be educated? And I wanted to use this presentation as an opportunity to promote and be a voice for the farmers than just, passing exams or failing exams news. I wanted to use this opportunity to be a voice for the farmers. So I have 4 research questions. The first thing is, how is the trend in change of public experience of hardship in Ethiopia during the past 10 years? What about perceptions of the public about effectiveness of the government? And is there any association between how people see the government and also their experience of hardship? And what factors can also predict perception of the public about the government? So this is a leadership research, and I wanted to introduce a little bit about what is leadership effectiveness. Leadership effectiveness is not about just asking people how they feel about the government. There are a lot of things that we take into account. The first thing is the leaders in general, starting from village level to the federal level. Also the followers. There are a lot of people that support the leaders. There are a lot of people that work with them. So it's not just a single person or few people. This also takes into account what is the country aspiring to get? What is the direction of the country? What are the biggest priorities? What is Ethiopia trying to achieve? And also, what is the best leadership framework we could use to understand Ethiopia and the people of Ethiopia? So it's a system approach. So it's not just about really thinking about who is currently leading Ethiopia. It's not really that very political discussion. It's rather understanding the whole context of the leadership system. So I also wanted to make it clear, this is not a political discussion, okay? Leadership, by definition, is a process of influencing people to achieve shared goals by developing their capacities and motivating coordinated action. So leadership can happen in classrooms, in organizations, in non-profit sector, in government sector, in businesses, at different level, even in household. But politics is a special corner of leadership where the focus is on power and resources. How do people get power? When do they get it? How often elections happen? what is the democratic process, the election process, who is coming to leadership position and the like. So my presentation is not about this power-related political topic. It's rather about how Ethiopia and the leaders of Ethiopia are trying to empower the public. How are the people trying to reach their collective directions and their collective vision? And so to study leadership, again, we need a leadership framework or a theory based on the context. For example, who is a leader can be one of the very old leadership models. It's no more common now. There have been a discussion about if leaders are born or made. A lot of people who used to think leaders are born to lead. But nowadays, science have done a lot of growth, a lot of research, and a lot of evidences come that leaders are not just born; they can also be made. And there are other theories that also discuss leadership. Also depends on situations. Leadership can be shared. It also depends on values of the leaders and their followers. So there are more than 10 or 20 leadership models that you can choose to study a leadership process of a given country, a given organization, a given group. Some of these are big man theory or charismatic leadership, transactional leadership, the reward and punishment based kind of leadership, or transformational leading by inspiring, servant leadership, putting people first, ethical leadership, leading by moral, values and, being very ethical, and adaptive leadership, especially during COVID time and when we don't know where to go and when we don't have enough information. It's a model we use, especially during difficult times. Social identity theory of leadership also relate to what I'm going to discuss about Ethiopia. This is identity-based leadership where people or followers are seen as in-group or out-group, us versus them and the like, and situational leadership or others. But those highlighted by red are the leadership models I'm taking into account to study the current leadership system and also the public experience of hardship in Ethiopia. Coming back to the social identity theory of leadership, Ethiopia is currently a federal state guided by federal groups or regions formed based on language and ethnic group. So there is a very big discussion in the literature. If you read about Ethiopia, ethnic groups are really, really big factor in the current leadership for the last 30 years. So it's been really practiced for a lot of time. There are a lot of studies out there representing Ethiopian leadership system based on identity. So what is this identity-based leadership? So when people come to different leadership roles and positions and responsibilities, they are seen through the lens of either ethnic, the context of Ethiopia, it's ethnic lens. So let me show you the model. The identity here, you don't just become a leader, you need to be part of a group, which is most likely your ethnic group. So you are either the same or different. Immediately the ethnic lens would put you either in group or out group. And the whole picture of ethnic social identity theory of leadership addresses the followers into two groups. These are those around the leader, the same as the leader, or those who are far from the leader or different from the leader in different ways. And this is actually the current scenario. If you try to understand Ethiopia, one of the theories you could use is the social identity theory of leadership. Doesn't mean this is the only leadership theory, but if you read more about how is the system organized, who is coming to power, what is the dynamics ongoing, more it's all around ethnic groups. So this is one framework I'm using. So the method to do this research, we conducted comparative analysis based on the data from Afrobarometer. This is a group based in Ghana that have been doing research in Africa for the past 40 years and 25 years in 40 different African countries. They have been really conducting research using very standardized, easy to compare research methodology. So I use this, and there are 2,400 Ethiopians from all over the country. Adult Ethiopians, same sex, like equal number of male and female are included. If this is a regional representation of the respondents, all regions of Ethiopia, including the new ones in 2023, the South nations and nationalities region have been splitting in different groups. So Sidama and Southwest have been included in 2023. I know other more regions have been created, but overall we can see this variation from what we know about the population of Ethiopia, especially Amhara and Oromia are the biggest. Of course, that's like the biggest population in the country. South is also very big, but we can say this more or less addresses the all regions of the country. And a data collection instrument, Afrobarometer, used the Likert scale-based survey question, for example, to ask effectiveness of the government. They asked them, for example, how effective was the government in handling the economy? So people have to choose between very badly, fairly badly, fairly well, and very well. So this, we call this a Likert scale question, survey method. And also to ask people about, say, hardship and different questions. They ask them, for example, how is your present living condition? So people say very bad, fairly good, or very good. So the data analysis I used is frequency, percentage, means, dependency test, chi-square test, factor analysis, especially to make a composite factor from different indicators of leadership effectiveness. And then we also conducted regression. We'll come to it. Ethical considerations. This study have been cleared by the University of Nebraska IRB as non-human subject research because the data is de-identifiable. There's a minimum risk. In the data, we don't have any information about who is the respondent, where they live. So we don't have any identifiable information about the participants. So there is no any clear risk to the participants, and any publication we get from this research will also be communicated with Afrobarometer. So definition of terms, whenever I say leadership in this paper, it's also to mean government. So these two terms are used interchangeably. And when we also say government, we are not discussing a specific village. It's not a specific district, zone, or region, or federal. It's the whole leadership system of Ethiopia. So we cannot say this is only about the village, or this is only about the healthcare, this is only about Ministry of Education. No, we see leadership as one single entity who is there to serve Ethiopians, wherever they are. So the question was not very specific about, let's say, how is the leadership of education. They didn't make it that very specific. Note, these questions were already prepared. So I used which is already existing, and it's very good because the survey material is the same between 2013 and 2023, which is, and household experience of hardship is the frequency of going without basic needs. Whenever I say hardship in this study, it's to mean how often people go without food, without water, without cash, without medical care. These are the major indicators we used to assess how are people experiencing hardship in the country. So that's very important for me. I come from a nutrition major into leadership. So the first thing I see when I go to a community, how is the well-being of mothers and children? Do they have enough food? Do they have enough water? Do they have enough basic services, enough school? That is my starting point to say a government is good or bad. How are they addressing, in the first place, the most voiceless, the most marginal, and those experiencing hardship? So what are the key findings? In terms of hardship, we have these 5 indicators: going without food, without water, without medicine, without fuel, and without cash. And across all these 5 indicators, people who never experienced hardship have declined. You can see from here, the green line indicates 2013, and the red line shows current 2023. The number of people who never experienced hardship have clearly decreased, which means the number of people are facing more hardships in all these different indicators of livelihood. And second, what are the top development needs prioritized by Ethiopians? This Afrobarometer gave me a very, very good picture of the country, and they really asked beyond democracy and beyond governance. Even if Afrobarometer majorly asks questions about elections and democracy and fairness and the like, they asked also basic development questions. What are the top development priorities for you? So people choose different topics, and the most common topics are water, electricity, roads, and transport and economy in 2013. But if you come to 2023, the biggest agendas are economy, civil war, water supply, roads, and crime and security. It's very clear. This is also in line with what's been published in a lot of papers. And a lot of Ethiopians will tell you, what are you worried about these days? For sure, it's peace and stability and security of my people. And this is clearly visible from the research data. It can be verified more. We'll discuss later. There's good news also. Internet is really growing fast in Ethiopia. And asset ownership, especially people who own cars, televisions, are really dramatically growing. And also the housing type, people who are having modern houses, are really growing a lot compared to the traditional house. This is a kind of a good story. And the research question too. What about perceptions of the people about the government? What do they think about the government's effectiveness in handling different aspects of life? These are the indicators. Afrobarometer have about 17 indicators of government effectiveness. That is from economy, peace and stability, managing corruption, infrastructure, and also conflicts, even climate and environment, and promoting rights of women. Again, if you see here, across all indicators of government effectiveness, there is a decline in performance. People, for example, in relation to managing economy, in 2013, there were 85% people who said the government is doing good. But in 2023, only 24% Ethiopians said the government is doing good. So there is a very clear decline in how people feel about the effectiveness of government in handling different issues of the people. Research question 3 is how are changes in household experience of hardship related to their person? Now, it's a very interesting question here. Okay, now people are going through hardships, right? How is this hardship explaining their perception about the government? And if you take into account these 5 indicators of hardship, no water, no food, no medicine, no fuel, no cash, among all these 5, the strongest predictors are not having water, no fuel, and no cash, which surprised me. People who don't have enough food, they still tend to not visibly showing like impact on the body. And how people feel about the government, lack of food is not a strong predictor. We'll see it later in question number 4. We try to see the whole factors, not only experience of hardships, but other factors, and how are people, which factors are really more strong predictors of performance. Again, as I said, the government was evaluated based on these 17 indicators of effectiveness. But theoretically, we have to run regression model for each of these indicators. How is the government managing economy? Which factors are predicting this? What about job creation? What about controlling prices, reducing inequality, crime? There's a lot of lists. We cannot do that. So we did a factor analysis and changed these 17 indicators of government effectiveness into 3. We grouped them in a very mathematical way. So I didn't really do by hand. It's rather using the R software factor analysis. So we grouped them into economy, infrastructure, and ethics. The ethics and environment part. Number 3 is about corruption and all these bribe-related things. Infrastructure is more about roads and water and healthcare. Economy is about jobs, supporting the poor, controlling prices, and all this have been grouped into 3. And then we have these factors now. We have demographic factors based on the literature. These are some of the most common factors reported that affect the perception of the public about the government. One is about their age, employment status, education, where they live, rural or urban, their identity, if they have access to internet, and also if they are feeling part of the discussion, freedom of speech, if they trust their neighbors, and corruption experiences, if they paid bribe, and also if they have no food or water, this hardship experience, information, also household economy. These are some of the most common factors from the literature that affect public perception of the government. Now we wanted to see which of these factors are actually true in this study. I'll show you one by one, but to see the big picture of how these three models, indicators of economy, infrastructure, and ethics, are the models, and the factors are on the left side. So among all these factors, for example, people in rural areas rate the government better than people in urban areas in relation to economy. It's a surprise for me. People in urban areas, they have luxuries, they have all the best. Like people in Addis, they have everything that Ethiopia could offer. But when it comes to economy, people in Addis, they rate the government less than people in rural areas. It's a surprise. And we can do more research and discuss more why people in the villages, even if they don't have enough water or enough road and infrastructure, why do they feel the government is doing better economically? But that's not only the same if you go across. When it comes to infrastructure, people in rural areas rate the government less than people in urban areas. So when we discuss about effectiveness of government, not just effectiveness in general, in what aspect? Managing economy and managing infrastructure or corruption is very different. People rate government differently based on the question you ask them. So it's very clear, people who have internet, for example, those who have more access to the internet rates the government less than they are. It's really still a little bit contradictory. The same from the literature also. And the experience of corruption is a very strong kind of factor we have seen. Usually, it's something that we need to study more. People who are experiencing more bribe, they tended to rate the government better, which is again kind of confusing for me. And water access is more strong predictor than food and others. And the most strong predictor we have seen in this model is household economy. It's consistent across the two indicators, and it's very big estimation, like the estimate. It's almost 0.95. It's almost 1. It's a very big, it's a powerful factor. Economy, household economy, current household economy appear to be really very significant predictor. If it goes like, to make it clear, factors associated with effectiveness of government in handling economy, rural people, they said better. People who have internet, they rate the government less. And experience of bribe, positively, people who experience more bribes tend to rate the government better, which is a kind of confusing. A lack of water and medicine, still in relation to economy, it's not negative. People who experience more lack of water, they say the government is doing good, which is a kind of confusing. But household economy is for sure very consistent with the literature. People who have better economy, they tended to rate the government high in economic indicator. I know this can be a little bit confusing. This is the most, for someone who's really academically curious, this is where you learn more. It's very easy to say things are increasing or decreasing, but what factors are, influencing those changes? It really informs a lot, and I've learned a lot from it. Again, in relation to infrastructure, as I said, rural people, they rate positive on economy, but they rate the government low when it comes to infrastructure. The same experience of bribe, positive, negative, is a kind of mixed. But when it comes to no water and no medicine, people who have high problem of water shortage, they rate the government low. So it's kind of in line with what we expect. Again, with infrastructure, people who have better household economic status, they rate the government higher. And the other very interesting finding, especially on ethics and corruption control, education became a factor now in this model. In the model in relation to economy and infrastructure, you don't see education as a strong predictor. When it comes to corruption and ethics and environment, educated people rate the government low. Highly educated people say the government is not managing corruption better compared to those who are not highly educated. And there are more discussion, especially how ethnic identity also affects the way people rate the government. But yeah, for the sake of time, I'm kind of keeping it short. So what is the summary? So household economy is a strong predictor. And there is a clear difference between urban and rural population, the way they see the government. And experience of bribe was also significant. And lack of food was not significant. It's a surprise, as I said. And identity, especially ethnic groups, and how they feel, people feel about their ethnic group and the government. There is some mixed findings. Internet access is positive and negative. And education is only significant in relation to ethics and corruption and bribe. So how is the global trend in general? How are people feeling about their governments? Globally, out of 167 countries, 130 reported that they are not happy about their government. So the key indicators are corruption, lack of accountability, institutional responsiveness, and socio-economic inequalities. So what we see in Ethiopia in general is also kind of a global trend. Look like people on power are not responding to the needs of the people, especially the inequality. And so coming back to the leadership theory. So what do we do about, what do we learn about Ethiopia, and what is our leadership proposal? The current situation in Ethiopia is identity-based leadership system. As I said it earlier, identity is a strong factor even in our regression model. How people feel ethnic or national really affects the model. There is some indicator that identity or ethnic group is not subject to ignore. If you are engaging in Ethiopia, this is one visible factor. We also know it's behind all these conflicts in so many ways. You can read about it on the published papers. So what we are proposing is that the current identity-based leadership needs additional leadership models. Only identity-based lens of leading the public or handling things is bringing a lot of corruption, conflict, and inequality. That's what I have learned comparing the current Ethiopian leadership system to the published papers and just my insights. This is a conclusion I reached at. The current leadership system of Ethiopia needs additional leadership models, such as especially ethical leadership and servant leadership. It's very, very important for Ethiopian leadership system to understand ethics is very important. There is corruption that is coming out, bribe. It's a very, very visible factor in the model. And we know this is not how the public servants should serve the public. So there is a need for ethics and servant leadership system implementation. And this is a proposed framework in addition to the identity. We cannot say we don't need any identity related discussions or there is no need for in-group, out-group. That's not how our world is, led. Anyways, leaderships are formed by those who are winning elections or the like. There are anyways in-groups and out-groups in so many ways, and that will continue to be there. But there should be a sense of ethics and service. If we are not ethical, if we are not honest, then leadership is going to be only manipulating the public based on identity. Rather than serving, let's say, are we there to answer clean water, food, jobs, and the like, wherever part of the country, whoever is leading, people need to have the basic services. This is a minimum a servant leader or an ethical leader can do to the public. So That's why when we add ethical leadership, servant leadership together with identity-based leadership, the country can have a little bit of merit-based leadership together with identity. Unless we are putting, peace, there is conflict ongoing in Ethiopia now. A lot of people are dying. The way to address it is first to have ethical thinking in our leaders. So, I cannot quote to the more details. So, based on our leadership model, the identity-based leadership in the country is not enough. We need more servant and ethical leaders because there is conflict, there is corruption, and there is poverty. These three factors require a lot of service-minded. Maybe the people we want to serve, they don't have enough money to pay. So there should be a service and ethical thinking. And beyond leader development, there should be a system improvement in general. We need strong systems, not just strong individuals, right? This is one of the lessons we get from this research. Also, we need to focus on the followers, the culture of Ethiopians, and how they see the government. It's not enough to improve the leader side. There should be work done to empower Ethiopians so that they are critical about their life, so that they choose leaders based on objective, competency-based, honest things than just looking at their, ethnic group or other things. And so there is a need for ongoing institutional capacity building system. And to conclude, so in Ethiopia, from this data, hardships are increasing and perception of effectiveness declined, and multiple factors are predicting. It's not just one or the other. There are many factors that need more research. And also peace and security are high priority for Ethiopians right now, in addition to the other indicators of hardship. And recommendations is the most important part, especially for the young people in this room. We need a lot of studies to validate what Afrobarometer have been doing. Afrobarometer is researching in more than 40 African countries. They have a very strong research team, but we need to contextualize and then do a lot of research and validate what is currently ongoing, because asking people about government is not easy. It's a very delicate topic. And how good is this research tool? I am more interested to repeat these studies and making a lot of conclusions based on what I currently have, because this is simply a very complicated topic, and we are addressing government in general. Now we address the village leader and the federal leader together, which is not really as such important to make action. So I recommend validation studies and more replication studies. A lot of studies should be conducted that can confirm this one, and then we have a strong national database. So later, after we have 10 or 20 or 100 related researches, then we can make a systematic review and then make a policy recommendation. It's very important. Nothing what I just said can inform a policy. No, that's not how we make use of research. First, you have a starting research, and then you do more similar research, and then you try to replicate that in different settings. You bring all this together, make a systematic review, then you can take to policy recommendation. I saw sometimes my students, when I was in Hawassa, they do a study and then they make a policy recommendation. Policy should do this, government should do this. At this stage, something which doesn't need a lot of study is the peace and stability of Ethiopia. We don't need a lot of research to say that Ethiopians need peace. We don't need conflicts. We don't need to lose our brothers and sisters. Well, this doesn't need a lot of research. But how to address it in a sustainable way is a topic of research. What leadership model do we need? Now I said ethical and servant leadership. Maybe what would another researcher say? The topic of leadership and the research on leadership is not common in Ethiopia. So this is a time for us to wake up, because we see leadership only through political lens, but it's not only politics. Leadership happens in classroom. Trust me, politics doesn't happen in classroom. There are a lot of sectors where leadership can be cultivated in the country. So we need to see it beyond political discussion. This is not a political discussion what I'm presenting here. As I said, let's take leadership beyond politics. How are the leaders of Ethiopia in general addressing water access for example? What is their agenda? When is Ethiopia going to have a country that doesn't have a lot of shortage of water? When do my village people have water from their home? Until now, all my age, what I've seen is people are going 3 kilometers, 4 kilometers to get water. But how long will it continue to be the same? Right? So this is the question you should ask from the leaders. And we also need more longitudinal studies in the country. Now, I went to Ghana because I don't have this kind of studies in Ethiopia. To tell you in short, there is no this kind of study conducted in Ethiopia for the last 10 years. So we have to go far from home. Ethiopian universities and Ethiopian scholars, we need to engage in this kind of research and also use secondary data, especially higher education institutions. We need to encourage the use of secondary data and partnership and networking. Sorry, also mixed methods. Research is recommended. It's not enough to only ask people on numbers. It's good to ask people to tell story. Why they say the government is good or bad. Beyond the numbers, what can say? So we need to have stories. And of course, we need to value lifelong learning and also sharing information publicly. I added this as a tip. Among all the factors I included, Afrobarometer asked the public, who do you think paid for this survey? And they said the government. So this is not visible in a lot of research papers. So it's a further area of research. So the strengths and limitations, I can come back to this if people have a question, but I want to thank the first Afrobarometer for giving me the chance to use this amazing data, which I can never access for the last 10 years. And Department of Agriculture, Leadership, Education and Communication, University of Nebraska. Please, those of you in the room, please apply. This is one of the best places you could study. And Dr. Ekin, my advisor, one of the best. So thank you so much. The PhD committee for all your support. University of Nebraska Rural Prosperity Program for paying for my PhD. I really value it. And this investment on Yes Ethiopia. And already more than 50,000 people are following my LinkedIn. Michigan State University Impart Alliance, Dr. Luz and all the team working there, especially the research and development team. I really want to thank you for all the support and encouragement and for being very patient with me. And the Ethiopian Agriculture Investment and Leadership Group members. And this is one of the good news. This PhD was not only about publishing. We already started an investment group. And you can see the pictures. 2 agriculture investments have been started after I joined this program. And yeah, all these followers on LinkedIn is almost 54,000. I really want to thank you. And my family, my wife, my children, I know I owe you a lot. And I'm very sure you get motivated by attending this. And I really thank you so much. And say, go be great. Thank you, University of Nebraska. I am done. Thank you. All questions and suggestions are welcome.
Great, thank you. We see a lot of applause and hearts and reactions in the webinar. So we have had some questions come in. We do only have about 5 minutes. So I'm going to pick a few, and I'm sorry if I don't.
I apologize. I took a lot of time. I just wanted maybe, to say young people.
Yes. And I think, you covered everything. And it's great to hear all of that. So just for the attendees too, that after this, after we close the webinar, the committee actually meets. And so we do want to leave some time to hear some of your questions. So I'm just going to ask a few of them, that I wanted to share that came through in the Q&A. If you want to add a question, if you're an attendee, please feel free. We'll see if we have time, but we probably only have about 5 minutes here. One question from Zamat Kabede. Is it possible to achieve the kind of leadership you are talking about in terms of Ethiopian federalism?
Well, the thing is, it's not a complete it's like nothing can be perfectly applied. Even the social identity theory of leadership, if we really use it wisely, it can integrate ethical and servant leadership. So it doesn't mean we take the other out and bring something new. It's rather enhancing what we have at hand. I see a lot of work have been ongoing. It's just about being mindful and be clear about especially what risk is coming because we follow this current federal system, and look at what papers published, what the research is telling us. And I say it's possible. It's possible because we really, trust me, no Ethiopian would like to see people not drinking water. I don't think an Ethiopian leader would see people to be hungry. It's just about, it's a mindset, and I'm very sure, I'm positive it's doable. Just to say it in short.
Yeah. Okay, there was one I wanted to ask from Denu. Do you think the research period, the 2023 data that you presented, might seem a bit of an outlier given peace and security in Ethiopia?
Yeah, for sure. No question. No question. During the past 5 years, we have lost a lot of young people. If you come and ask me how is what can we get? What can replace human beings? What can replace 500,000 young people? And how do you expect me to say the leadership is doing good? It's obvious. I was not surprised. It's a challenge the country is going through. It's a pain. It's the most painful time. Ethiopia is going through the most painful time. Peace is more than everything because it costs the life of young people. So, but that doesn't hide. If you go to the detail, that doesn't hide the fact that, let's say, rural people are very positive about the government. Even if they don't have enough food, they are still positive. The innocence of the public is still there. And the data tells really what's going on. It also motivates us to do more research. Now, I cannot say this is everything. That's why I said we need to engage in more research so that whenever we give a strong recommendation, not just my opinion, it should be based on really solid through 2 or 5, at least 6 different studies. This is only single study. This Afrobarometer. Which other study do we have in Ethiopia that conducted the same study? That makes it really, you cannot feel confident to say, this is it, based on data. But based on what we see happening when you read all the news, 500,000 young people. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it makes it more, it might be an outlier, but important to capture that data about what the reality of what is going on from year to year through something like Afrobarometer. Okay, question from Sintayehu Solomon. How do you see the perception of servant leadership model among public servants in Ethiopia? Do you think our leaders have the attitude of servant leadership?
Yeah, as I said earlier, it's like trend in culture might be a challenge. In general, I know a lot of Ethiopians would like to serve the public in a better way. I don't feel like people have an inherent intention of harming the public. Rather, what's commonly practiced, especially accepting bribe or corruption and the like, these things have been partly shortage of resources. So people compete for small opportunities. Let's say if you are going to hire 3 people, 300 might apply. There is a lot of, so people can go around the corners to reach there. So first it's about creating more opportunities, utilizing our resources, man-made and natural resources, and make sure people have jobs and people have real opportunities. So you minimize the potential unethical behavior by increasing, the chance of, being professionally productive and getting better pay and the like. So, and also rule of law and this really very good monitoring and evaluation system, being genuine. So it's not enough to have a very good mindset. You need to have a system and institution behind that's genuinely made. that's really there and it's been done. It's not only in Ethiopia. If you see the global community, a lot of countries have managed to do it. So that's why I say it's possible, because we can also change. We are doing some amazing things in the world, like the airline, the Ethiopian airline. How did it become the biggest in Africa? There is some degree of ethics, there is some degree of service in that sector. And the same can be done to other sectors also.
Great. Okay, I'm going to have, this is so hard. There are many good questions that people have shared, as well as notes of support to you. So maybe you can look at some of those later and respond to them. Unfortunately, we only have a couple more minutes. I did want to ask Gabru's question. Notes that your dissertation offers valuable findings and strong recommendations. However, in a context where leadership structures from top officials to grassroots levels are often shaped by entrenched networks and personal economic interests, what practical strategies have you designed to ensure these findings and recommendations are actually implemented? That's a good question. I want to focus on the second part of Gabru's question, and this will be our last one. I'm sorry to all these good questions that we have time for. But the last part of Gabru's question, how has researching Ethiopia's leadership system changed your own leadership philosophy?
Yeah, it's like for example, the fact that lack of food is not a strong factor, because I come from a nutrition major. I always think food is the first thing people care about. Well, now it's not that really strong predictor. So really it motivated me to ask again, educated people, education became a factor on relation to ethics. On the others, you don't see education playing out. Why education is that kind of weak, I don't know. It's a topic I wanted to learn more, because these are like unexpected learning points, but well, because we don't have leadership training in Ethiopia. We don't have many leadership degrees. And that's why I rather feel more motivated to engage in a similar, at least short courses, because people need to understand politics is not everything, right? We need to cultivate, like, if we had a very good leadership and human behavior and ethics cultivation system, maybe the politics of the top would be better. But we come from kind of lack of that leadership mindset, and then we have this big politics that is really all about power. We get lost in between because of lack of leadership training, lack of cultivation from high school level to, we can discuss a lot. This is a very big topic. But please, I'm going to post this thing on LinkedIn or on our social media. Keep asking me, and don't expect really a complete answer, because, as I say, more research should be done. More research should be done, and I'm open to learn and to engage with all of you, and especially short courses. As we know, in East Ethiopia, we have this kind of programs, and let's keep engaging. So today is just a learning point, and I don't want to close the door, because this is a very different topic. It's not about me passing or failing an exam. This is about being voice for those farmers who don't have water, those farmers who are saying, please help. Maybe someone in this room might help, Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate all those questions. I wish we had another hour or maybe Kadu does not want another hour, but that we had more time to hear more of these questions, discuss them. I love the idea of continuing them, maybe online. And I think Fakadu will be able to access the questions and could respond to you. But at this point, we will end the presentation. The committee members are going to move over to another Zoom room for our discussion. I want to thank everyone for coming today and for Fakadu's hard work on this. This has culminated from a lot of courses and a lot of work and drafts and revision and data analysis and reading research. So we're very well done. And thank you to all for being here today.
Yeah, I'm very happy. Thanks so much for coming, people. I really value all of you. And for sure, we'll keep the discussion. Have a nice time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, committee members, we'll see you in the next Zoom room.